Morning, morning, morning. Dr. O here. Hope you're well. Want to tackle the subject of trust. So if I just get out of the way for a minute, you can see my nice image here. So we're talking about communication and management, and we're talking about building team trust. Now, this to me is a subject that I could talk about for hours, but I'm going to talk about it for a few minutes. And I think it's important right now, particularly when I'm recording this, because we're at a time in history where people are confused about the information they're receiving from the government. They're even in the companies, the way information is disseminated and explained is still very fragmented. We're living in a world of Zoom right now where everybody's communicating in Zoom, little compartmentalized worlds. They're sat at home working in their role, in their job. Even managers, even heads of companies are sat literally, in many cases, directors sat in a room, and yet they've got a whole team around them. They've got people working for them. They've got independent contractors working for them. They've got staff working for them. And so what that tends to do is it fragments communication. Now you might argue, well, Dr. O, surely Zoom has helped. I think Zoom has helped to some extent because it's brought people back together, allowing this type of communication to happen. But at the same time, what Zoom has not done is allowed people to get back and connect physically, to be able to see each other. I mean, literally body language tells so much. And just to have that physical, energetic connection, that's definitely been lacking. And I think it's given certain types of people the opportunity to duck and hide and disappear and not face the music, not have open communication. And that's so vital. So bearing in mind this is a question that's been coming up and does come up, and bearing in mind that the field I'm in is communication, I think it's really important that we tackle this head on. So let me just open this up for you. If you currently run a business right now, or you are in a business, you're a senior person within that business, or even somebody that's coming up through the business, this is so important. But particularly if you're in a management role, you're a director of a company, and you have people that are answerable to you, but also who rely on you in certain ways, this is absolutely vital. And I'm not going to pull any punches on this. I've personally experienced absolutely shit communication with companies, crap management structure, and crap interaction between even staff, management, even at board level, where there's a complete lack of trust amongst people at board level. And that usually leads to a company basically breaking up, because you cannot sensibly run a business where there is not open, honest communication amongst the staff, amongst the management down to the staff, and certainly from board down through to the other elements of the company as well. And it's a wrestling match for me. And for me, I have a really big challenge because of my value system being in a space like that, where I find myself, you know, what do I do? Do I just speak my mind here, which is my basic mode of operation? Or do I mute myself for a while, wait and see how this transpires? And that's a tough call to make if you're in that situation. My personal view is you need to speak your mind. Or you find yourself in a situation where you can't associate with these people anymore because they're just totally misaligned with your values, and they're not prepared to be transparent in their open communication. And over the years, that's been a real tough dance for me with certain organizations I've worked with, where I've seen things and made decisions that it's time to step away, or just not wanting to get involved. And you may find that in your current situation in your job or in the workplace, or even if you're at a higher level in the company. And then that leads to some really big decisions. So coming back to this, let's talk about honesty for a minute. Honesty at any level in management, excuse me, is vital, because when people are communicating, there are so many signs, telltale signs that give away whether a person's lying or not, or whether they're hiding something. I sat in a meeting not so long ago where somebody was talking about financial aspects of the business, and then when questions come up about it, often a very broad, sweeping statement is made. And I saw this, dismissing a certain amount of money from costs that are going out of this business. And as I was watching, I was thinking, well, there's no detail in that. And actually, people need to know detail. If you say something and then you provide detail behind it, that level of honesty in the information you're presenting allays a lot of fears. It takes away the question marks. It takes away that question of, is this person telling the truth or not? Are they lying? Are they holding something back? And you can see it in people's body language. And, the conversation is going to go one of two ways. Either someone's going to challenge that person and keep challenging to get to the truth, or the conversation's avoided, it's smudged over, which happens 9 times out of 10. and then everybody rolls on to the next part of a conversation. And the answer never was given. And then that builds a greater level of distrust, or mistrust. And you've got to decide in your business or at the level you're at, first of all, what is the appropriate information for people to receive? That's one thing. And if you think it's fair for them to hear it, then you've got to be transparent and share that information. But it's not just information, it's conversations that may be happening about somebody's, how they're conducting themselves, how you feel about this relationship, if it's working or not. That level of honesty inside a business can often lead to two people that are having a clash actually having a connection, and then they get on really well, and they end up being one of the strongest relationships in the whole business. So that level of honesty early, and number two, open communication, can lead to the strength being built between two people that previously had a fractured relationship in that business. The communication was broken. So finding an open communication space is really important, whether you do that around a table, whether you just set that out as the basic means of how you're all going to communicate on all meetings, whether one person is the conduit to that and everybody goes through that person, but then it's, if you like, it's organized and coordinated, however you choose to do it. But setting up a role of open communication inside a business is so important. And at management level, if you can encourage that, the danger is when people don't want to do it, they keep themselves muted. And then it's like a pressure cooker and it just builds up. And you don't want that in any business, because it's really frustrating. It happens in families, it happens in relationships. You imagine that in a business environment as well. Everyone's got their own agenda. Everybody, from the top of the business right down to somebody coming in at the beginning. People have got their own agenda on a personal level, on a financial level, on an aspirational level, on a career level. We all know that. If you are able to have open communication about what your aspirations are, what your own personal goals are, your own agenda is, knowing that it could lead to opportunities for you, but at the same time might lead to a more harmonious situation in the business, do it. Hiding stuff back, being conniving, manipulating, using one-upmanship, compartmentalizing conversations, firefighting, divide and conquer, all that stuff. We'll come to that in a minute. That's a really dangerous way to go in business. So try as much as you can to avoid that. And if you spot it, see if you can break that up. And that comes down to feedback now. When we talk about feedback's really important at any level in business. Whether you're a staff member who's junior and you're feeling frustrated, you've got to feed that back up through the line of communication. And if you're getting a block with the person above you, you go above them, and that might cause problems. But you can't stay in that situation and be more and more unhappy in the business. Feedback can come through emails, it can come through voice messages, it can come through phone calls. The most direct, the better. If you get an opportunity to have that feedback in a group environment where there's different members of the company there, have it, and do it in a way where it's objective. Even I find myself sometimes getting quite hot under the collar and feeling frustrated in the situation, and you've got to somehow find a way to temper it, but at the same time, don't hide or mute your voice, which is what a lot of people do. They just put the volume down, tone it down, and just say, I'll keep quiet and just badger on. That doesn't lead to any healthy relationships long term. So find a way of feeding back, and also find a way of asking to be fed back to as well. And then the last one is avoiding this whole dividing up the team. I've seen it. I saw it a few years ago, and it became really clear. I was involved with a company that sort of went through a bit of a breakup, and it turned out that leadership within that organisation, there was a lot of breaking that conversations up, lots of private conversations and seeded conversations in there as well. Maybe dropping a little poison in there, just here and there, or saying things to keep people in their own little places. You don't need to speak to so-and-so. Just come back to me. If you get into a situation like that in a company, it's a slippery slope. For two reasons. One is, if people believe that what's being said by the individual conversations, they'll just end up fighting each other and breaking up anyway. And that may be what that one individual's trying to do at a senior level, because that's how they keep their power. Or it might be that the staff suddenly realize what's going on, which is what I saw. And then they're like, what the hell? This person's been doing this with all these other people. And then you get the organization start to come together behind that person. And you'd effectively, get a group forming that will want to operate in a different way. None of this, by the way, is healthy for any business. So look at those four things, be aware of it, and start watching for it. And hopefully you can encourage a different culture in your management and in your company.